Hello and welcome to another album review with me, Joshua Smith, and today, also, Merry Christmas, because it is Christmas today, as you probably all know. Anyways, today we're going to be reviewing the album Sticky Fingers by the Rolling Stones. This album was released on April 23rd of 1971. A little chart information about it: it peaked at number 1 on the US Billboard 200 and number 1 on the UK Albums Chart, and has gone triple platinum in the US, selling over 3 million copies, and has gone gold in the UK, selling over 100,000 copies. Um, it was released on the label Rolling Stones, and the singles are Brown Sugar and Bitch as a B-side, and Wild Horses. So let's get this started. Track number 1 is Brown Sugar. The first track on the album is classic Rolling Stones at its core. It's heavy, it rocks out loud, and it's in your face. It even comes with a saxophone solo. It's the Rolling Stones going back to their roots after their foray with psychedelic pop a few years earlier. The song details the feelings Mick Jagger has for his black woman that he was involved with at the time. It's pure classic rock goodness and lets the listener know that this is what the Rolling Stones are all about. Now, track 2 is Sway. The next track is slower than the previous track and has more of a blues R&B influence to it. It's about being in the sway of life, tossing and turning us in a kind of manic depression. Interestingly enough, Mick Jagger himself plays the electric rhythm guitar on this track, adding a bit of his own personal touch on this blues rock track. So track number 3 is Wild Horses, another slow track that actually has more of a country or folk influence. It's more, it's much more acoustic than the previous two tracks. The main instruments here are the acoustic guitar, electric guitar combination between Keith Richards and Mick Taylor. Mick's singing on this track about not wanting to be far away from home is emotional and very heartfelt. You can hear the ache in his voice as each of the instruments gel with the words that Mick is singing. Track number 4 is Can't You Hear Me Knocking. This track opens up with an amazingly catchy guitar, drum, and bass combo that you just can't turn away from. And once it starts, you can't help but continue to listen to this amazing track. This is an unusually long track for the Rolling Stones, clocking in a little over 7 minutes. However, throughout the track, it never ceases to entertain, that's for sure. It comes packed with a more jazzed up instrumental section with organ, another saxophone solo, and a groovy mix of percussive greatness. It's amazing. The lyrics, however, are kind of hard to read. Apparently, Mick Jagger isn't even sure what the song is about. However, from what the lyrics are saying, it seems to be about being in a kind of feral state of mind, like you're some dangerous beast. Regardless, this track is pure instrumental greatness, with not a whole lot of lyrics going for it, but making up for it with what's contained in the middle of the track to the very end. Now, track number 5 is You Gotta Move. Starting off with some classic Delta style blues in the same vein as the blues great Robert Johnson. This short 2.5 minute track is just that, Delta blues. As if we were down south listening to Robert Johnson play at some nightclub many years ago. This track is actually a Negro spiritual about a rather dark topic. Being that it's a Negro spiritual, of course, it would be about slaves running away, trying to escape imminent death from hanging or getting caught and whatever. It really shows just how much the Rolling Stones were influenced by that classic blues style, as they're so known for. Now, track number 6 is, pardon my language, Bitch. Now, this track is pure rock, getting back to, how the album first started out. It's got that typical folksy feeling to it, but even better, it comes loaded with a blaring horn section, adding some really great uniqueness to it. From a title like Bitch, you can probably imagine what the track is, about. However, it's not about one, certain, particular person, but just about how love in general is, well, a bitch. Anyways, track 7 is I Got the Blues. The title is kind of self-explanatory for this track. You can probably guess that it's a blues track, obviously, which it very much is. Again, adding a mixture of horns to mix soulful and downtrodden vocals. It's incredibly slow, but powerful at the very same time. Something to really set this track apart from the rest is the amazing organ solo by none other than the organ master himself, Billy Preston. The Beatles weren't the only rock and roll band utilizing his talent. But anyways, as the song builds up, Mick's singing gets more and more emotional as the track comes to an end. Now, track number 8 is Sister Morphine. This track is in part written by Marianne Faithfull, the girl that Mick was currently involved with, very famous relationship. Um, it's a very acoustic folk rock track about wanting pain to be numbed by said Sister Morphine, asking when she'll come around again. In the middle of the track, things start to become much heavier with more instruments being added to the mix. It's a song about wanting to escape from the world into more of a dream world, or perhaps a trip world. As it also makes mention of sweet cousin cocaine. So I don't know that must be about. It's extremely dark, and it's with allusions to death, the process of dying, drugs, and so on. Not recommended for the faint of heart, but a very nice track all the same. Now we come to track number 9, which is Dead Flowers. This country track sees Mick singing with an accent that sounds more like a cowboy than an Englishman, so it sounds very, I guess, American, if you want to say that. Um, like the previous track, this one is rather dark, again alluding to death, drugs, this time injecting heroin, but it's much more up-tempo than the previous track. It's like it's straight from Texas or Tennessee with its pure country style, even having twangy guitars. And now we come to the final track, track 10, Moonlight Mile. This slow, ominous track opens with some acoustic guitar played by Mick Jagger himself, and a light piano to top it off, which continues throughout the entire song. This track, much like Wild Horses, is about feeling lonely on the road. Near the middle, some prominent strings are added to make this slow rock song that much more emotional. It's somber and a huge departure from how the album originally started out. Not too long after the middle section, everything starts pounding, crescendoing. Even Mick, who started out singing nice and light, becomes heavier with his vocals as the song then draws close to the end, where we have a sweet section of instrumentals, much like how the track started out, bringing this track as well as the album to an end. Overall, truly one of the Rolling Stones' best albums, and it's clear to see why the period in which this album was made was considered their classic period. This album has tons of variety, tons of variance, and throughout the album it becomes much, much darker and with more depressing themes of death and drugs and loneliness. It shows that the life of a superstar isn't all fun and games, but as for this album, it certainly is one of the best albums of the early 70s. And I definitely recommend that you listen to this all the way through. Anyways, thank you for joining me on this a beautiful Christmas day. I hope you're enjoying your Christmas with your families and friends and everything. But anyways, if you want an album or a song reviewed that you like or may suggest, just leave a comment down below and I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. But anyways, thank you for joining me. Merry Christmas and so long.